Hi students, during today's session we're going to learn about the drop saw. In particular we're going to learn about the fixed drop saw. There are different types of drop saw. This one is a fixed drop saw. There's also a sliding compound drop saw, which means that the whole mechanism slides backward and forward, allowing you to cut larger widths of timber. There's a couple of things you need to remember whenever you're using the drop saw. And a couple of safety things you need to remember. The blades are very sharp. They're turned by a motor, so they spin really, really fast, which makes them especially dangerous. So you must at all times know where your hands are, in particular your fingers and your thumb. Okay? You should not have your hand any closer than, say, 150 millimeters, or you'll notice on the actual drop saw, there's a picture of a hand with like a cross line through it. So you really shouldn't have your hand past that towards the blade. There's a couple of ways that we can operate this machine safely. Obviously using our hand to hold the timber nice and stable on the machine is a good way to do it. We also have a mechanical fixing device, which is this little clamping system, which we can rotate around and then clamp our timber down. Now you'll see that later on in the demonstration. My suggestion is you use the clamp as much as possible, and especially until you are comfortable and confident using the machine. It's all about safety. It's okay to be afraid of the machine and afraid of what potential damage and harm can be done. It's not good to be scared, because then you will more than likely make mistakes and you'll be overly cautious and too afraid to actually use the machine, which can cause a safety issue as well. Again, as long as you follow the instructions, you watch the demonstration, and then you demonstrate your competency back to the teacher, you should be fine using this machine. There's a couple of main things you need to remember. We'll talk about the PPE. So your PPE, or personal protective equipment that you'll need, is a set of earmuffs to go over your ears. The machine is quite loud. And you'll also need a pair of glasses. Now I wear reading glasses when I'm in the workshop, so I can see the small numbers on the ruler. So I have my reading glasses. They can act as a pair of safety glasses as well. But if you don't wear reading glasses, you must wear the school supplied safety glasses as well. So as I said, there's a couple of things that we need to really remember. The saw blade is really, really sharp. There's lots of teeth. They're tungsten carbide, so they will cut through skin and bone really quite easily. If the guard is not working properly, then don't use the machine. Let the teacher know. Okay? To use the machine, we will pull the actual machine motor and blade down towards the timber. But again, none of that works until we do a couple of other things. Hi students, once you've done your safety tests, you've watched the online demonstration, and you've demonstrated your competency back to your teacher, you're allowed to use the drop saw. Just a reminder that you are not allowed to use the drop saw when the teacher is not in the room, and when you do use the drop saw, you need to ask for permission and wait for the teacher to be near you so they can keep an eye on you and they can listen to what's happening with the machine. When all that's good and you're right to use the machine and you're standing here using the machine, there's a couple of things that you need to have in place. So obviously you want to have your marking out already done. I'm just going to use a tri-square now just to do my mark on my piece of timber, and that's just going to help me to see where I'm going to line my blade up. Now normally with any machine we would have the dust extractor on so that it sucks away the dust and takes it out to the hoppers. For this demonstration though, so that I can talk you through it and you can hear what's going on, I'm going to have the dust extractor turned off. To operate this drop saw, there is a small black button on top of the drop saw handle. that is a safety switch. The machine won't operate until you push that button in. When you push that button in, you'll make a grabbing motion with your fingers to pull the handle switch into, then engage the motor. Now when you do that, you will notice that the machine kicks a little bit away from you, and that's because the motor is spinning and getting up to speed. Now, a reminder with all processes, we want to make sure the motor gets up to speed. One, that allows the motor to get ready. Two, it makes it a little bit safer than trying to cut through while the motor and the blade are getting up to correct speed. To set the machine up, again I said you can either use your left hand to hold the timber onto the bed and push it into the back rest, or you can use the mechanical locking device, okay? And I'm going to do both ways. But first thing that we want to do is we actually want to line up our blade with the pencil line, okay? Now again, as long as we don't push that thumb button in, we can't turn the saw on. I'm going to lower that machine down so that I can see where the pencil line is, and again, the button can't be pushed. I can't accidentally cut myself here because there's no way I can turn this machine on, or someone else can accidentally turn it on. So I'm going to bring my blade down. I'm going to rest the blade just on the line, and it's sort of just on the waist side of the line. Remember, we're cutting the waist off, so we always want to leave part of that line because that's our measurement. So I'm going to bring that down. I'm then going to tighten the locking device so that it holds that in place. I can then go and raise the machine back up. Now I'm ready to actually cut. The next thing I need to do to actually be able to make that process is to put my earmuffs on and make sure I've got my safety glasses on. Okay, so earmuffs on, I've already got my glasses on. Now, to actually make this saw work, you're going to push the button in, you're going to grab the other handle, and the motor will turn on. And I'm going to demonstrate that without making a cut, so that you can hear and see what happens with the saw. So push the button in, grab the handle, see. You can hear that the machine is quite loud. And the other thing that you may have noticed is that the machine moved away from me just a little bit, okay? Now, I want you to do that at least once or twice so you can feel and hear what's happening with the machine before you go and cut your timber. Once you've done that and you feel ready to actually cut, again, final check, make sure that's nice and tight. Bring your blade down, make sure you're cutting the right position. Then you're going to raise it up, and when you make the cutting movement, it's going to be nice and controlled down through. No quick movements, not really fast, nice and controlled down all the way through that cut, as I'm going to demonstrate now. The machine is slowing down, the blade has retracted into the cover. It's now safe to remove my piece of waste and throw that into the rubbish bin. The machine is also now safe that I can remove my piece of timber and go and make any more cuts, or if I've got a stop set up to make multiple cuts, I can just continue doing that. You'll notice that when I use the mechanical device, my hand is nowhere near the blade. I actually leave it down beside me so that I'm not tempted to put my hand anywhere near that cutting surface. This time I'm going to show you how to make the same cut, but you're going to use your hand. I'm going to use my hand to hold the timber rather than the mechanical device. So again, I make another line so that I'm ready to go. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to rest my piece of timber. I'm going to bring the blade down so that I can see that I'm going to partially cut through my line, and I'm going to get rid of my waste. I'm then going to let the machine go back up. My earmuffs are going to come on. Then the next really important thing is how to hold your hand. So what I'm going to do is my fingers are going to be putting pressure down on the timber, and my thumb is going to be tucked in underneath my fingers, pushing the timber into the back fence. Okay? This does two things. It keeps my thumb out of the way of the blade, so I can see that it's under and not out towards the blade, because again, that's the first thing you'll cut off. And two, it helps me control the timber. So there's a little curve cut out on the table, and that's where I usually stick my hand. So I'll have my hand in there, I'll have my thumb on the edge of the timber, I can see that my fingers are nowhere near the blade, and same process again, thumb in, grab, move down nice and controlled all the way through that cut. Now it's really important you can see how close I am to that pencil line there. It is really important that you follow those steps. It's really important that you remember what protection you need to have. So you need to have your earmuffs on at all times. You need to have a pair of glasses or safety glasses on at all times. You either need to use the mechanical device, or you need to remember where your fingers and thumb are in relation to your cut. You never cut anything smaller than that space. So it's about 200 millimeters. You don't cut anything smaller than that. If you need to cut anything smaller than that, you use the bandsaw. We've gone through that. Okay, students, that's been the drop saw. I've been Mr. Brown. You've been awesome. I'll see you next time.